We're not live streaming in the middle of all this, are we? Oh, we are now? Okay, all right. So, all right. As the old saying goes, one of us, one of us. All right, so we got it. All right, y'all ready? Can y'all hear me okay? Brother Carlos is deaf. He says he can't hear. Brother Chuck, what about back in the back there? Can you hear? Sounds good there? Okay, all right. So, Brother Carlos, go sit back there with Brother Chuck then. He can sign language to you what I'm saying. All right, so I think we got it going now. So we're ready to go. All right, so a couple things. I do want to ask you to pray for a friend of mine, for their family. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Danny Howell went home to be with the Lord yesterday afternoon, and I talked to Miss Trish this evening. And so please remember them in prayer, and just good people, just salt of the earth, good people, and it'll leave a hole in the world. So remember and pray for them in his passing. And then also, I have some unspoken requests that I would like you to remember and pray for. And then through this weekend, there's a lot going on. Be a lot of people traveling on the road. There it goes. I hear it now. Just a lot of people traveling on the road. There's some graduations happening down in Pensacola. Janie and Mason are both graduating this weekend at Pensacola. Miss Gina's granddaughter Jordan is graduating down at Frostproof, right? Down there, going to be graduating there. And then also Cooper and Abby are getting married this weekend as well. So please remember them in prayer. Not my Abby, for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about. It had nothing to do with my daughter. I promise you, I would not be this calm if my daughter was getting married this weekend, especially with me having not already known it. So there's a lot going on, and just a lot of moving pieces for people. So remember and pray for those situations. Pray for each other. And then on June the 8th, that'll be the second Sunday night in June. On that Sunday night, we'll be having our graduate recognition service, and we'll be looking after all of them. And we do have more graduations happening. Aaron's coming up in a couple of weeks. Jeremy Garcia is coming up. And so there's just a lot going on. So on that night, we're going to have a time of having a graduation celebration. And there are so many of them. That's why we said we'll have it on a Sunday night here at the church, because it was just for everybody to try to have a party, have a get together, everything like that. It was just easier to just combine everybody into one place. And so we're going to be doing that on that night. And we've been talking about having barbecue on that night. And so if you will be working on the sides or things that you would fix, we're working on a couple of different meats. We're definitely working on having a brisket that night. I think Miss Marixa has mentioned about some kind of carnitas or something like that. I can't remember exactly what she said. I'm not complaining, anything like that. I'm like, absolutely. But she's wanting to help provide that. And so we'll have a couple of opportunities for a couple of different things, and it'll be a good time. So remember that. That's coming up. And I will tell all of you this in case you do not know. All right, something my dad taught me nearly 30 years ago, and actually it's been 30 years ago, and I've never forgotten this. Whenever you get a graduation invitation, okay, they don't exactly expect you to come, okay? That card just means please send money, okay? That is, and when you read that, if you want to translate it, it just means please send money. All right, and so when Abby graduated, I pulled out a bunch of my friends that knew her, and I'm like, send them one. She's like, Dad, they're not coming. I said, send them an invitation. And she come back, she's like, thank you. I said, I told you. And that's the deal. Please send money. So if you're not able to go, please send money. If you don't have money, you go to the graduation and you make up for it that way. But one way or the other, that's what that means. So let's encourage these along the way and do this for them and try to be a blessing to them. All right, let's have a word of prayer and then we'll get dug in. All right, Father, thank you for your goodness. I pray you'll bless this time. I pray you'll bless us while we look at your word. Speak to our hearts. And Lord, I pray that we will be encouraged and instructed and corrected by the things that we see. And we will thank you for it. And we ask it in Jesus' name. We ask it for his sake. Amen. All right, back to 1 Corinthians 13 tonight. And we'll labor down through, I'm hoping to get through a couple of verses this evening and to look at a few more things that go with this. I would honestly say, and I don't mean that I'm flawless with it. I will be honest and say that reading my Bible and spending time with God and in devotional life, I don't walk a perfect line, but it's not something that I struggle with. I may miss a day because of being in a hurry, and I'll be honest, sometimes I miss a day because I'm just lazy. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. Sometimes I just miss a day because I'm lazy, and I don't read my Bible, or I don't really spend time with God like I should. But I'm going to circle back, and I'm going to get to that. Somewhere I'm going to get some preaching playing. I'm going to be listening to some things. I'm going to do that. I don't struggle with church attendance. And that's not because I'm the pastor. I really promise it's not. Even when I wasn't a pastor, I went to church. We were there. I don't struggle with church attendance. I don't struggle with giving. I know I'm supposed to give. So I give my tithes, give offerings, I help with things. I do all those things. But I'm going to tell you what I struggle with. I struggle with loving people. That's where my struggle's at. Now, here's the problem. Looks like loving people, but doesn't actually feel like loving people. We've gotten really good at looking like we love each other without actually doing it. Sometimes I forget in the process of being busy and coming and going and shaking hands and talking to people and, what do you need? And what's going on here? And looking at this and looking at that and making sure the next thing happens, that our conversations happen so fast. You know what I forget to do to the people I'm talking to? I forget to love them. To take just a minute and forget to love those people and really connect my heart to what's happening in the conversation. And it's not a resistance. I don't want to love you. Some people it is. But so who is it? If you're wondering, it's probably you. No, I'm kidding. It's not that I'm fighting loving them. I'm forgetting to love them. And that's a struggle that I have to work on because life gets busy. I read an article one time where a pastor was instructing his staff on a Sunday morning. They had worship leaders and, they had, it's a big church, all kinds of things going on, a lot of people on the staff. And he told them, he said, this Sunday morning as you go out and meet people, he said, I want you to walk slowly between the pews. And he went back and explained in the article what he meant. He said, stop trying to see how many people you can get to and see how much of a blessing you can be to just a few people. He said, slow down and remember that the people matter. So sometimes we struggle with it because we forget, all right? But then on the counterpart of that, I also struggle with this. I have a hard time believing, okay, because you generally will trust the people that you love, yes or no? All right? And as well, all right, you expect the people that you love to trust you. Sometimes we just find it really hard to believe, while we're forgetting to love everybody else, sometimes we find it hard to believe that people actually love us. Now, that will change the way you interact with people when you question the love that's going on there. Because I for a long time, I have said, if you don't trust me, I don't trust you. That's just fair. If you don't trust me, I don't trust you. Now, if I haven't done anything and you're that's just the way it is. If you don't trust me, I don't trust you. Now we're even, all right? You say, that's a hard way to live. It is a hard way to live, and I don't really need to keep doing that, all right? So, but when we have a hard time believing that people actually love us, and the reason why we do is because we think everybody judges us by the faults that we know. And we think everybody holds us accountable to the things that we have in our mind. And if we're not careful, because we don't think we're loved, we won't give love either. Now, it should not be that I only love you because you love me, but you loving me and me realizing that should fuel me to reciprocate and love you and love others. All right? So with that, let's look here. We finished up last week and we talked about there where Paul said, speaking of charity, there in, I got to find my place again, there verse number 5, where he said it is not easily provoked. And remember we said that, it doesn't fluster easily. And we talked about that the picture is, and so often we forget this, in the Greek language, as it's brought over, there are not all phrases, but a lot of phrases had a word picture. In other words, this statement, and people envisioned these things. Remember, we talked about that when it said it's not easily provoked, it's hard to sharpen. You can't get an edge on it. And man, how often we are people that are so easy to get edgy and get sharpened. We get rubbed the wrong way, and before we know it, we're as sharp as a razor. But this is not one of those times. Remember, we need Pakistan steel in our blades, something that you cannot get an edge on, all right? We need, in this condition, to have the similitude of a butter knife, that we are just not easy to get an edge on, and that things, when we don't, because sometimes, when you get aggravated with people, and let's just be honest, all of us do, all right? Sometimes husbands get aggravated with wives, and dudes, let's just be honest. You get aggravated enough, in your aggravation, you will forget that's the woman that you love. Now, I don't agree with that. For years it went by and you forgot that's the woman that you love. I'm talking about in a moment. In a moment of aggravation, in a moment of it rubbing you the wrong way, you forget. And on the counterpart of that, ladies, I know y'all are not as prone to error as we are. Y'all are not as bad about it as we are. Brother Jack said, that's a surprise. y'all are not as error prone as we are, but on the same thing, husband keeps pushing the buttons, whatever. And in a moment, we just forget. Or here's what happened. We let it put an edge on us because we forgot those are the people that we love. So we looked at and we talked about it's not easily provoked. All right, so then look there at the end of that verse. He said, thinketh no evil. All right, now that word thinketh there, again, is one of those word pictures. Okay, and that thinketh there, all right, the word thinketh there means to take an inventory. It means to estimate and then to conclude. All right, so with that, the note that I wrote there beside that word thinketh is a bookkeeper. All right, a bookkeeper, if you're making money and spending money, you have a bookkeeper, and you take them your receipts, you take them your deposits, and you show them everything, and they're keeping up with the money that comes in and the money that goes out, and they're processing all the information that's there. All right, so when he's talking about charity thinketh no evil, he's saying charity, when we love people, we don't sit down with the ledger book and keep up with everything and run it all in that fashion. Because here's what I've learned, okay? If you keep a ledger book on everyone that offends you, you will be a worthless Christian before it's all said and done. Because you will be bitter, you will be angry, you won't love anybody, you will be critical, nobody will be as good as you, but in reality, nobody will actually be as bad as you. And if we're not careful, that's what happens. Now, let's think just for a moment. The people that we love. Our husbands, our wives, our children, our parents. When we keep all of those records and we keep up with all of that stuff. Now, the Apostle Paul is not saying live like a fool. Okay, that is not what this is saying. And this does not mean I never want to preach or make it sound like that some sort of abuse, whether it be emotional, whether it be physical, whether it be sexual, I never want to preach and make it sound like that abuse because of the gospel is excused and it should be let go. I don't believe the Bible teaches that at all. Okay, I don't believe that's right. So that's not what I'm saying. But I'm talking about holding ourselves accountable and just saying, you know what? Because here's the thing, all right? So me and Brother Jack, we go and play golf. He plays hole number 5 way better than I do. All right, he just, and so the next time we go and play, we get on 5 and he plays 5 better than me again. Believe it or not, there are some people that will get just absolutely angry and jealous because they'll get to hole number 5 and they'll say, all Jack thinks he can do is just play this better than I can. Now, if you don't believe that, you just pay attention to the way your brain works, and in a little while, here's what you'll think. You will be convinced yourself that he doesn't love you because of how things are happening and how things are playing out, and then the animosity will grow in that relationship because of what I have let overcome my thinking. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, what Paul said. You remember that? Okay? So in this thinking no evil, not taking the inventory, not counting everything up, not bringing everything back to play, writing it all down, keeping record. Can I give you a little advice? Peter went to Jesus and said, hey, Lord, how many times does Andrew get to do me dirty until I get to call his hand on it? 7 times? Jesus said, no, 70 times 7 in one day. An evangelist told a story years ago. He said he had studied on that and learned about it and said he was trying to practice forgiveness in the course of the day with his wife. And he said, I was trying not to be abusive and mean, and said she did something that morning that offended him. And he looked at her and he said, you got 489 to go before this day is done. Now, the problem is that we can't keep count and have the right relationship. How many times have we seen churches get down to nearly a thread of love because everybody kept record of everybody's wrongdoings and things? Now, I will say this. I'm not for churches being taken advantage of by stupid people. I'm not for people sitting in churches and abusing and roughhousing and just stepping on and living foolish in the middle of a family. No, in your home, if somebody gets dumb and it's affecting the rest of the family, we hold that person accountable. Is that right? Okay. If my finger on my hand here randomly just kept poking me in the right eye, I'm probably going to go have something done about this finger, right? Okay. The church as a body has the responsibility that we don't let one finger keep poking it in the right eye. All right, so we got to be careful that we don't use liberty as a leverage for me to just mistreat people. But at the same time, if someone, especially if they have been repentant of where they have been and how things are, if God, who can count the hairs on your head, and not just count them, but give them all an individual number. If God is able to do that and know all of that about you, and when forgiveness is given to scratch the line out, how much more should you and I, who cannot claim offense near at the level that God can, say, if God got over that, I probably should too. That's where it comes to of thinking no evil. All right, now, when he talks about thinking no evil, obviously, the word evil there is not talking about sinfulness. It's talking about the worthless acts of the person. It's talking about the ill things that they've done. It's talking about the harm areas of that. Because here's the truth of the matter. We could all keep score and record on one another. There's none of us that somebody could not keep a pretty good ledger on if they wanted to. None of us. There are none of us that are beyond these things being seen about us. And the Bible still says, he that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Here you go. Are you ready? Fellas, I remember, we grew up in a house. I never washed one piece of clothes until I was married. My mama forbade us to touch the washing machine. Hands off. Don't touch it. She had no idea how crippled I was whenever we got married. Got ready to wash clothes. Charles was like, what do you mean you don't know? I was like, I'm serious. I really don't know what to do. So I learned. Okay, now, hear me well. Nothing wrong with a man that can run a washing machine. Amen. Nothing wrong with that. It does not, first of all, you don't have more hair on your back because you don't know how. Okay? That doesn't make you anything special. Don't worry, Brother Carlos. It's a white guy thing. Okay. So, Brother Carlos is like, what? All right. All right. So it doesn't make you special because you refuse to do some of those things. It doesn't make you special because you won't wash dishes, fellas. I'm the man in my house. I don't do it. It's stupid. It's just stupid. Okay. I grew up in a house. We didn't get to do it. My mama wouldn't even let us clear the table and clean the plates and get them ready. She's like, you won't do it good enough. She wouldn't let us do it. I'm dead serious. I would try. Finally, I remember, it blew my mind. One night we finished eating supper. Mama said, okay, new plan tonight. She said, everybody pick up, carry to the sink. So we all, when we got through eating, which it was just me and Dad, everybody else was already out, we pick up our plates, we carry them over to the sink, we put them down. Not allowed to wash them. She's not having it. She wouldn't let us have it. I had never run a vacuum cleaner until we got married. I'm dead serious. I never had. I vacuumed the bedroom one time. Charlotte said, what are you doing? I said, I'm vacuuming the floor. She said, not at that speed, you're not. I said, what are you talking about? She said, there's no way that's clean. I said, that's the way the guy on TV did it. She said, he didn't have to get it clean. He had to get through the scene. I said, okay. So I learned how to run a vacuum cleaner. All right, now, watch this. Guys, if your wife, she doesn't even have to ask for it. If you realize your wife needs help and you do not lift a finger to help in areas where you know that she needs help, you are not a leader in that home. You are not a leader in that home, because a leader takes responsibility for the people who are supposed to be following him. And when they're in a struggle, the leader goes back and helps pick up the slack and move things to where it needs to be. Does not God do the exact same thing with us? That is exactly how this works. Now, if I realize she needs help, and I avoid helping, or I'm like, well, you can just do whatever you want to, and then she gets irritated at me and she thinks evil of me, okay, guess what? She's going to have to answer to God for keeping record, but I'm going to have to answer to God for making a record. There are two sides to that thing. See, this charity thing, this loving people like God has loved us, just remember what I told you, where Charlotte and I came to the conclusion. We still have disagreements. We still have to sit down and talk. We still get aggravated. I mean, there are times it's like, especially towards me, she wants to choke me. All right? I get it. Okay? I live with this guy every day. I understand that you want to choke him. All right? So, heated moments. But here's the thing. Ever since we agreed we're going to act like we love one another in these times, it is amazing how much it has neutralized animosity. It has absolutely neutralized animosity. Drew and McKenna, trust me, I don't give you guys 3 weeks. And Drew's going to say, I'm taking you back to your mama and daddy. I am done. I did not realize that you were this hard to deal with until now. I am taking you home. And McKenna's going to say, fine, take me home. And you're going to start down the road. And the Holy Spirit's going to say, so how are we going to do this on Sunday? Because you both got to serve God this coming weekend. We're going to act like nothing happened? And Drew's going to pull the car over. And he's going to say, I'm sorry you were wrong. And McKenna's going to open the door and say, I'll walk back to my parents' house from here. No, I sound like I'm exaggerating, but trust me, that's not far from true for a whole lot of you sitting here. Look at here. I can pretend that Christian life is perfect, and we all know we'll be lying. Okay? There have been times in the years since I've been here that I've had to go get Charlotte on Sunday morning and say, I can't pray and you can't help nobody. There won't be no preaching. We got to make this right. And I don't mean to pretend make it right so we can get by. I mean literally, I'm sorry, standing there crying, making things right with one another. And because here's what we realize, okay? Can't get up and preach with clear consciences holding those grudges. We can't serve God and love one another and express that love and remember that we are loved. When you keep records on people, you won't believe they love you. And here's the problem. They may not be keeping a record, and they may be trying to show you that they love you, but because you're keeping records on them, you won't ever accept the fact that they actually love me. Man, what? And the devil's so good at that because it's a crippling blow. And it literally, it just kinks the hose of the lifeline and you're dying on that end of it. All right? So, thinketh no evil. Now let's move on here. Look at verse number 6. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. The rejoicing there is talking about being cheerful. It's a salutation. Well, Mason, if someone says, hey, that was a salutation, what does that mean? You don't know. Hannah, what is a salutation? Emma, what is a salutation? What is the first part you do in a letter? Greeting? It's a salutation. Yes, ma'am. It's a greeting. It's an introduction, all right? That salutation is what you open up with, all right? Nobody walks up and says, goodbye, good to see you. That's backwards. It's hello, good to see you. Salutation is in that way. When it's talking about rejoicing, it is that expression of, and watch this, the salutation is the first thing you say. There you go. It's a salute, a salutation. There you go. It is the engagement there. All right, when it talks about rejoiceth not in iniquity, when something goes wrong or goes bad or someone's life spirals off, if I love them, guess what? The first thing I don't say is, hey, guess what so-and-so did? You see, love controls, I'm going to put it like this, okay? From within, as God works in our heart, the greatest place that your love will be extended. Okay, now I want you to hear me. And don't anybody take this like a gouge. I don't mean like that. You can cook someone a meal in a bad place and not really show them you love them. And sometimes we do acts of love in ways that we claim, but in the same thing, while we're fixing, cooking, or doing something for them, we are rejoicing in the iniquity. We're saluting what was wrong. We're talking about, well, I tell you right now, they wouldn't be where they were. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Because the next verse is really going to help hem us in here. I want to challenge you to do something, okay? I want to challenge you to stop and just hold yourself accountable for who you talk about, how you talk about them, and why you talk about them. Just hold yourself accountable. If you start keeping track of that for a few days, you may find out I spend a whole lot of time rejoicing in iniquity. I spend a whole lot of time saying things that I should not say. I don't have the whole thing with me, but there is it is an Arab saying, but it talks about that before we talk and discuss things, it should go through those 3 golden gates. Is it true? Is it needful? And is it kind? I wrote a little note up, my Bible's upside down, but I wrote a little note whenever I went through where it said, charity suffereth long and is kind. One of the old commentators from years ago, here's what he said. He said, if you are not very kind, you are not very holy. When David sent word looking for any of the descendants of Saul's house, do you know what David said he wanted to express and extend to the descendants of Saul's house? He said, and this cut me in half when I read this last few days. David said, are there any of Saul's descendants still around that I may show kindness to them? Man, how convicted I get over kindness. One old preacher said, he said, it costs you a whole lot to be mean, but it won't cost you anything to be kind. That's okay. I will remember that. I don't practice it. I wish I was better at it. I really do. I wish I was better at it. All right, so it rejoiceth not in iniquity. And that iniquity there is talking about the injustice or the things that were wrong or the wrongfulness or their character or their actions. And again, if we will not, okay, watch this, if we will not think no evil, if we won't process people in that way, it'll make it real hard to rejoice in iniquity, because I'm not trying to learn everything I can about them so that I can figure out what to say. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. That same word there, that cheerfulness, that salutation. So there's a greeting there in the truth. All right? So, in other words, we do find something good. We do find something positive. Or here's one, and this is, man, if you had told me 20 years ago that I would think like I think today, I would tell you you're nuts. I would say there's no way. I won't ever think like that. If you told me 15 years ago that my ministry philosophy and the way I work at things and the way I try, if you'd told me that, I said, like, nope, there ain't no way. That won't be me. And I'm glad God does not pay any attention to me. He just grows me and makes me who He wants me to be. I'm happy. There are people's lives that I'm part of now that 15 years ago we would have never gotten along. It would have never worked out. And I will gladly take the 15-year change and be who I am today. And I'll also say I thank God for the 15-year change, because there are a whole bunch of people that it took out of my life that I'm glad are not there anymore. I'm glad for those transformations. I'm glad to see some of that different. But in rejoicing in the truth, when we look at people, all right, because here's the truth, all right? God can change people, yes or no? That's true, all right? So, I look at your life, just pick on you. I look at your life. I can rejoice in the iniquity, and I can say, he did this and he did that, and it's this and it's that. Or I can rejoice in the truth, and I can say, you know what? That's somebody that God loves, I love. And the truth is, if God works in his life, God will change him. And I'm going to rejoice in the fact that God can work in your life. You say, preacher, that's extremely optimistic. It's so optimistic that Jesus walked up Calvary's hill saying, I know this will work, so I will die for this cause. That kind of puts it in perspective right there, okay? Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. So, seeing here, this is what this love does. All right, now, I want you to look at this next verse. What time is it? Okay, we're doing good. All right, so in this next verse here, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Now, when we look at words, we got to let them have their standalone place, but we also got to let them say, what's the collective thought here? Each one of those words paints a picture. Okay, each one of those words represents something. When he talked about there, beareth all things, again, word picture. Beareth is a picture of a roof over a house. So when you look at it, it means to roof over. So if you were in a snowy area, you would not build something and put a flimsy tarp on top of it, because you know the load of the weight would push it down, right? You'd be like, this won't support this. And here's what you'd say: this tarp won't bear this load. Okay? When we love and we have the charity that we're supposed to have, when we let God love people through us, and let that become part of how we do this. When we see people, we say, God, love these people through me. Just let me be, Lord, you be the source. Just let me be the channel that it gets there, and let them be the destination, and send your love through me and give it to those people. Okay? So in loving people like we're supposed to, there's some things that we just have to say. It supports what comes down on top of it. It protects them. Let me give you a picture of that. Goliath had brothers, and giants have a way of showing back up. You whoop one, there'll be some more that'll come back to your life. They're going to come. A man defeats the giant of pornography. Trust me, the pornographic giants, they have brothers, and they come back. They come back. There will be fights. There will be more things that go with it. All of our lives have giants that we have faced that have found their way back into our lives. David got into another fight with other giants. And because David had gotten older, And these were Goliath's brothers that he was fighting with. Because David had gotten older, he was not able to fight and to do what he had done. All right, remember, you have Joab, Asahel, and Abishai. Okay, those were three. Joab was the leader of David's army, and Abishai and Asahel were Joab's brothers. All right, Abner killed Asahel. Okay, and I don't like the fact that the dude got killed, but I have to say one of the coolest stories in the Bible to read is Abner running in front of Asahel saying, "You might want to find one of these other kids to pick on. I really ain't the guy. Turn to the right hand or the left hand, pick a fight somewhere else." And Asahel would not let off. And so Joab flipped his spear behind him and running away right back under his arm, smote Asahel under the fifth rib, between the fourth and fifth rib, the Bible says specifically, which was a heart shot, and he died right there. Okay? That's what happened. The next time you read that, that's exactly what's going on. Imagine one man chasing another and another man going, poop, and that's it. He's done. All right, he killed him right there on the spot. So Asahel died. But we still have Joab, who is the oldest, and we have Abishai. Now, Abishai is a guy that you like to have around, but you have to keep him on a short leash. Okay? Abishai is a guy that if a fight gets picked, I will finish it. Just point out who you want me to whoop, and I will do it. All right? I like Abishai, and I thank God that some of you are good reflections of Abishai. I am thankful that I'm like, calm down. Yeah, do what now? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just hold tight right there. I appreciate that. But when David was fighting with the giant, was it Ishbi-benob? I think it was Ishbi-benob. It was Ishbi-benob. So when he was fighting with Ishbi-benob, all right, the Bible said that David waxed faint. And then the Bible said that Abishai went out and succored David. All right, again, one of those old English words that as it comes over, nobody today, where I grew up, if you talked about succouring something, you were probably either breaking the limbs off a peach tree while they were getting ready to put on blooms, or you were breaking the tops out of tobacco plants. Okay, that's succoring where I grew up at. All right? But when the Bible said that he succored him, he literally, the picture is that Abishai literally went out and covered David in the middle of the fight. Ishbi-benob was ready to kill him, and Abishai covered and protected him. Watch this. Beareth all things. I will keep this off of you. In loving him, I will keep this off of you. Okay? How often do we forget that we love people and we don't go the extra mile to keep something off of them? You say, I'm not strong enough. It's the love of God in you. It's not your physical strength. It's God loving them through you, which makes it possible. And that's what makes that happen. All right? So, means to put a roof over it. Means to, and watch this, it also means to cover with silence. Sometimes the best answer you can give a gossip is nothing. Just nothing. Don't feed them. Don't fuel them. Don't give them anything else to go with it. Just tell them nothing. Okay? Or you can just put them to silence. I had a friend one time. He did me such a favor. Somebody was gossiping and was talking. And he literally pulled his phone out and started dialing. And the person gossiping said, what are you doing? I said, I'm calling Brother Todd. He said, for what? He said, because either you're going to tell him or I'm going to tell him what you're saying. And the guy's like, no, I don't mean it like that. He said, apparently you do. He said, let's deal with it. And I'm going to be honest with you. There is a whole lot of junk that would get silenced if people would just be man enough and woman enough to say, let's just stop. We're not honoring God. We're not honoring the person that we're degrading. We're not representing charity. We're not helping anybody in what we're doing here. And we're doing a disservice to the body of Christ to tell ourselves we're going to stand here and punch ourselves in the face and act like we don't have something wrong with us. A whole lot could be helped if people could learn to shut up. To just shut up. I love my church. Just run their mouth and talk. Or, whatever. Or it's not helping anything. When we do it to each other, when you do it to me, if I do it to you, it's not helping anything. And we're all human, and it's a struggle and a fight for every one of us. There's not a person here that does not have to struggle with their mouth. That's why James said the tongue is an unruly evil. It's set on fire of hell. That is how destructive it is. That he said it is literally of hell fire. Just think about how much damage has been done in homes when a husband never touched the wife and the wife never touched the husband, but words were spoken that could not get undone. Okay? Covering with silence, just having sense not to say. I'm going to keep my mouth shut, and when we love the other person enough, here's what we can say, and I'm asking you to do the same thing. I'm asking you to do the same thing. I was out with a guy one time. We were out doing something, and we were way away from the bank. I don't mean the water. We were way out on the lake. We were fishing. And I was in his boat, and I was trapped there. And I'm careful about who I spend a whole day with anywhere. I just am, okay? The reason why I don't come sit at your houses and visit you every week and eat the holes out of your donuts is because I have learned I get to stay here longer if we don't spend that much time together. Now, it's just the way it works. Now, say what you want to. I've been here almost 17 years. Apparently, it's a pattern that's working. Okay? So, whatever. And there are people that early on here at the church, come eat supper with us, preacher, and I'd go over to their house. And I'd get stuck in an hour and a half rant about what they didn't like about me, or what they didn't like about people in the church, and what they wanted me to fix. And so the next time they invited me, guess what? I was like, you know what? The air in my tires needs changing, and I'm not going to be able to come. I've got other things I have to do. And I just quit doing it. I quit going. For two reasons. One, I didn't want to waste my life sitting there listening to that. You say, but what about the friends you would have made? I don't need friends like that. I don't need friends like that. And to be honest with you, I don't need people sitting in the church thinking that's okay to do that to one another. It's not okay. All right? So, and then too, all the other stuff. When we're going to do this? When are you going to do that? Why don't you let so-and-so preach? And I'm like, okay, no more. I'm done. I'm done with this. So that's why I cut back on who I spend time with and where I spend whole days and all that kind of stuff. You need me, we got a situation, we'll take care of it. Other than that, I'm just not. So I let this guy talk me into going fishing. We're on the middle of Lake Talquin. And he starts. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I really don't want to put this guy in his place in the middle of the lake in his boat. But I'm just not going to keep sitting here and putting up with this. I said, I'm just not going to do it. He's running his mouth. He's talking. And he went on, and finally I said, hey, brother, I said, listen, I'm sitting in the back of the boat. And we were catching fish, too. I said, hey, look, brother, I said, here's the deal. I said, the man you're talking about, I said, I love him. He's my friend. And I said, what you're talking about is not even relative. I said, you're being critical. And you're just being mean. I said, I wasn't there to hear what you're saying happened. And I said, I personally think you're just trying to hold him to a standard that you can't even meet yourself. I said, so if you don't mind, let's find something else to talk about, or let's just don't talk at all. Now, it chapped him pretty good. Mad enough that he never came back to church another day after that. I'm just going to speak the straight up truth. I don't care. I don't care. If me correcting him for being derogatory with his mouth was enough to get him to leave, and he can't see the error of that, because I would have left it alone. Because I know how it is, my own mouth. I'll run my mouth. There's been times Daddy said, son, you're talking about a situation like you were sitting there when it happened. He said, but I know for a fact you were at such and such when that happened. How do you know what you're talking about? He said, somebody had to have of gossip to you? And I said, never mind. I was so mad at him for calling my hand on that. Because he had me. There was no arguing with him. Daddy had me. And you know what I did? I found somebody else to gossip to because I found out that you couldn't do it with my dad. No, I'm kidding. It taught me a lesson. Okay? That bearing there, and that bearing sometimes, whenever a roof system is built on a house, there's what is called a deflection load, a deflection value on that roof. Okay? And that deflection has to do with how it's framed, the pitch, the support from underneath. That deflection has to do with the wind load. Because believe it or not, that big flat surface there, if the wind hits it in the right direction, you can blow a building over simply because of how the roof is attached. It has to do with that kind of deflection. The deflection of the rain, it bears that load. All those things are figured in. And in bearing all things in each other's lives, there are times, and don't get weird on this, there are times, lean over this a little bit, there are times where we owe this to each other. That because I love them, I'm not going to let that come on you. I love them and I'm going to bear this, and it's going to hit me and it's going to shed off of you. I am going to make sure that this does not get on you. That is loving people. Hey, did not Jesus do that for us on the cross of Calvary? He covered us with His sacrifice, and what should have been mine, He took it. He bore it all for us. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, that you have love one to another. What time is it? All right, got to hurry. Okay. Beareth all things. Remember, talking about charity. Beareth all things. That's over. Okay? Then he said, believeth all things, hopeth all things. Now that believeth there means to have faith in or respect to a person or thing. So in other words, not only, and for the sake of time, let me hurry along and say it like this. Bearing is over. Believing and hoping is around. Okay, do you see the picture? Bearing is me loving and my love covering you, but hoping and believing is my love surrounding you. It is working around. Okay, and when it talks about there that it believeth all things and hopeth all things, to have faith, and by having faith in someone is just simply saying, you know what? I'm not going to believe all the bad. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be that kind of person. I'm not going to do that to you. And I'm going to cover you from the outside. And that hoping there, all right, because watch this, belief without hope is no good. Okay? Hope is me saying, this is what I expect to happen. Not wishing, but this is what I expect to happen. When we take the time to cover someone and love them and then believe and hope and surround their life in that fashion, here's what, because you can't do this without investing in someone. And I have learned of my own self, there are a whole lot of people I've criticized that I've not invested nothing in. And I complain about what they are, and I've never done anything to change what they are. How hypocritical is that? Okay? When I am hoping all things, here's what I'm saying. I am keeping this off of you. I am building around you. And in hope of what I'm bringing to you that is truth, here's what I'm saying. When this takes, you'll be a different person. God is going to change you. All right? That's what it does. Over, around. Now let me give you that last one. Endureth all things. That's under. Okay? Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. All right, that word endureth there, all right, it means to stay under or to remain. In other words, it means to be a burden bearer. So from the top side, I'm taking it off that way, but from the underside, I'm holding it up this way. Not long ago, I went and looked at a job for a man and was helping him figure out what was going on. And I got there and he said, He said, Todd, he said, right off the bat, he said, something is going on with the floor in this house. He said, I had a man come in and he put a new foundation under the house, he had the house raised 42 inches. And he said, he picked the house up and he explained everything to me. And he said, I just don't know what he got wrong. And I literally walked down the middle of this big open room. And when I walked into the middle of it, remember watching WCW or them wrestling growing up, and that wrestling ring was like this? I mean, man, you watch them guys, they'd jump and they'd bounce. And I walked in the middle of that thing and I said, so that's what a wrestling ring feels like. I was like, oh my word. I said, sir, I ain't even got out of the house yet, but I said, I can go ahead and tell you, there is not enough support in the middle of this room. I said, I'm just about positive they have under-supported this. I said, and whatever they are carrying here is not big enough. I said, they've gone with too small of a timber. So I crawled underneath the house. I shined the light and I said, I found a problem. He said, what was it? I said, you got a 2x8 spanning 16 feet? I said, you have to do that with a minimum of a 2x10. I said, you got to have bridging blocks every 4 feet. And I said, they got one row of bridging blocks right down the middle with 16-foot 2x8s. And I said, it ain't never going to stop shaking. I said, it's going to be like this from now on. So I walked him through what will have to be done to get this fixed and get this built back up. Now, here's what I'm positive of. When we get done with it, you land a helicopter on it. It'll hold. You know what that looks like, don't you, Carlos? I said, you'll be able to land a helicopter on it when I get done with it. I said, it'll be there. Now, and enduring all things, that's a foundational statement. And when that charity does what it's supposed to, when that love does what it's supposed to, it protects the top, it protects the outside around, and it protects it from underneath, and it holds it up. How many people have we let fall because we didn't help them to bear up where they were? How many people have we not helped get to the other side because we didn't see, hey, there is a weak place there and we have got to get supports under that or it's never going to be right. Some of us need to do that with our kids. Some of us need to look at our kids and we need to say, okay, I got to get over you, I got to get around you, and I got to get under you. Some of us need to do it with our spouse. We need to realize that this is what's needed. Some of us are going to have to do this with our parents. Some of us are going to have to do it with the people that we work with. Some of us are going to have to do it with the people that we live next door to, with our brothers or with our sisters or whoever it is. Some of us, God's just going to single somebody out in your life and God's going to say, that's you, do that in their life. Cover them, surround them, support them, over, around, under. Be all these different things to them. When we say we love people, that's what it looks like. Now this is where this gets so bad on me. Because we say we love people, but then when Paul describes it, you know what I say? I ain't done very good at what that says. I've missed this right here. Let's pray. Our Father, thank you for your word. And I thank you as I've studied and as you spoke to my heart. Thank you for the things that I found and seen. Lord, I thank you for the truth that you poured into me. I thank you that Lord, the truth transforms us and it makes us new. Father, I pray that you will help us, transform us, Lord, by the renewing of our mind. Help us to see these things. Lord, help us to remember that loving people is not easy. Sometimes loving people is just raw. It's complicated. But we have to do it. I pray, God, that you'll give us grace for this time. Help us to love and honor each other, love and honor you. Give us a great day together on Sunday. Bless for the remainder of this week. Lord, a lot of busy people, a lot of things going on. So in the process of all that, I pray for grace and mercy for each family. Those that are on the road, Lord, help them to enjoy the miles together rather than to endure the miles together. May it be time spent together. And we'll thank you for it, and I ask it in Jesus' name. I ask it for his sake. Amen. Thank you for another Wednesday night. We appreciate so much your time with us online, and we hope you have a good rest of your night. Lord willing, we'll see you Sunday morning at 10:30. Have a good evening.